consider selfish or like, oh my goodness, that's going to be annoying.
Maybe you can cut it out.
I can cut that out. I can edit these now.
You said even as humans.
Oh, no, you go.
I wasn't sure what was happening there.
Because I'm not sure if we've actually figured out the best intro, because I've no longer used Skippy. So what
was it called? Skippy?
Yes.
Have you given it away?
Yeah, it's called Skippy. Skippy the bush kangaroo. Right? Okay, so guys, welcome back to the Identity Human podcast with your hosts, Don
and Ray.
And we really appreciate you guys being here again. And we want to do our best to make sure that we are adding as much value possible with the time that you choose to give us.
And we're super duper excited for today or tonight's podcast because we finally have better microphones set up.
Yes.
So if you move from one episode to another and you've hit this episode, you should now notice a vast improvement in sound quality. However, we will be really gutted if at the end of the recording we get and the sound quality is still horrible. But we did a few test recordings and it is much better. So let's hope that pulls through to the actual.
So what's the lesson? There's a lesson in this. I must have put about 6 hours towards trying to make sure that this
works. I've got it. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Know your
powers.
Strengths.
Powers. Sorry.
Yes, so I suppose we can crack on with the podcast tonight. And what did you want to talk about?
Well, I thought it would be a good time for us to, I know we always touch on we have an upcoming challenge and a course, but what we've really struggled with, genuinely really struggled with Identity Human is really nailing down our niche. And we've got tighter and tighter over time because we were just going to do ice bars and then we realized that we needed more in the course than just ice bars. Yeah, because there was just so much more to offer. And then we've really struggled to be like, well, who do we serve? And I feel like we've finally landed on something that feels right. What do you think? We've got a good niche, I think, now.
Well, I think it's one of those where it's probably been staring us in the face.
Yes.
As they often say, you niche what you are.
Yeah, like you are your best customer or something. Yeah. So what are we? I think
it's... Now this is where I can go, we are so many different things. And that's where but it is. So just from the podcast point of view, the podcast isn't necessarily going to change into what the niche is. But obviously our niche is more specific towards the course that we're trying to do. So
the course being, if you haven't heard the name, the course is Unshakable.
Yes.
So you've got Identity Human, which is the brand, and it's about empowering people, high performance in life. And you got the course Unshakable. And we wanted to really help, because if we say we help everyone, we help no one. So if we can really niche down a program where we know we can make an impact, we had to hone in on who is it that we want to make an impact to.
And if I was to hone in one, so it's parents, right?
Parents in business, and specifically parents of young kids in business.
Okay, interesting. I was just kids.
No, I specified parents of young kids because I feel like they do come. There's obviously big challenges that come with having teenage and adult kids, no doubt about it. But I think there's a very unique set of challenges of just relentless go, and overwhelm and not having time for yourself that you experience when you have young kids. I feel like the challenges are different when you have a teenager kid. Then it's not going to be that my understanding of talking to people with older kids is not that go, never have time for yourself. It's a lot more, a big emotional, bigger issues you're dealing with, but you tend to find that parents of older kids start to have time for self-care and to work on themselves. But that's the pattern I've noticed. So for me, when I've kind of spoken to people about our niche or put it on social media, it's been very much parents of young kids in business, and that could mean you're an entrepreneur or have a very demanding career.
And that's specific to the course, because I think what I still really like is the fact that alongside this, I've got Samson Armand, you've got your accounting business, we've got the pool going. And so even within Samson Armand, I'm I want to help that Unshakable with the managing directors, because I understand the pinch points of that person at the top, and where our course really nails that in, is it's really important to recognize that as parents, you've got a business that's adding value to the world. So there's that privilege, there's that, or responsibility, depends how you look at it. But at the same time, not at the cost of your kids and who you are. And even deeper to that, not at the cost of who you are.
And what people tend to do, parents at that stage, is they will put everything above who they are. So they'll make sure business is okay, again, whether that's career or their own business, and they'll make sure their kids are okay. And what tends to lose out is themselves.
Yeah. And I think what we also really like the idea of is having like, instead of it just being me or say Ray, if she ever comes on and does it in the community as your accountability people, like as parents, we want those two to share that journey, because we're not here talking about how to parent, are we?
No, it's not about.
We've obviously got our approaches, but it's about like the presence which you bring when you parent. And whoever you are, we want you to bring the best version of yourself as often as possible, but also recognizing that we're not setting anyone up for failure to be the perfect version all the time. It's to help that understanding, to help that journey, to help work through the pinch points, the pain points.
And I suppose a really natural segue of this, I just want to talk about and explain to you where we're going to be focusing on for the course, which will naturally also lead us to have certain topics that we cover in the podcast, but it's not going to limit us on the podcast. But where that leads to is a really fascinating idea that Don is extremely passionate about, and maybe we could kind of flesh this out, is this idea that leading others, the best way to lead others, whether it's a business or your kids, is actually to lead by example, to make sure you're a better version of yourself. And that's going to elevate those around you.
Yeah, and I suppose it's not...
You have a better way of explaining it.
No, it's true. I think you explained it quite well, by the way. I think at the end of the day, as humans, we're inclined to want to help others do, and even the people that even as humans, it doesn't like, whenever you think someone's putting themselves first, they still want this element of like, I want to be part of, I want to belong to, so therefore I'm going to have to sacrifice some of who I am to belong. But sometimes we sacrifice too much of that. And that's where we can get stressed. That's where we can start to just be versions of ourselves that we're not. That I talk about like incongruence, out of alignment. And that's where we start to get really stressed. We're putting so much energy into being something that we're not, that we should actually focus on who we are, what gives us energy, and how we can be the best version of that to the people around us. And it's often we don't know how to look at that. We don't know, how we empower ourselves to be able to be, first of all, I think this is where it could go. How do you make yourself brave and courageous enough to put who you are into a situation, knowing that it's going to challenge the norms or the way that things have been? Because in that time of change, you're going to upset. So like, let's say I go, Ray, I'm going to do this from now on. And you go, but that really puts me out of sorts because it tips the balance. But I know that in 2 or 3 months' time, that's going to make me a better version of myself, which is going to serve you better. But in that short term, it's like you're like, well, I don't really like the way you're changing that, and vice versa. And there's been elements of that where, so like, putting boundaries in place for each other, and one of us having to really stick to those boundaries, so that until the other one goes, you actually really like these boundaries, but at first I don't. So specifically around, say, like working and school hours for us. So like, there's been times we raise, like, I've been like, I just want to provide, I just want to go and work. And like, there's this meeting at 5 and there's this networking thing here and this, this webinar at 6. And there's been times we raise like, that's not the life we want to live. And I'm like, how am I supposed, the classic, my child, like, how am I supposed to provide? How am I supposed to do this? Like, I can't possibly try and create a business with 6 hours a day. And Ray would just be like, well, why not? And then watching her actually create that, I go, okay, well, yeah, why not? So challenging that thinking type. And that's hard for the one person to stick up to that change.
I was saying that's an example of someone saying, I'm going to be me. I'm going to be the best version of me, as an example to you that it is possible.
Yeah, so you brought something to the table that you believed in, which essentially is you. And at first I'm like, but that's not the norm. That's not the way we do it. But because we've stuck to it, it means that now I take that on and we work together well.
Or another example is the legendary ice baths, where Don started them, and it took a whole year of me seeing him do these ice baths and cold water exposure every day.
And keeping your opinion to yourself? Or
that is vocalizing how utterly ridiculous it all was. And what do you know, a year later, I started doing it, and I'm now coming up to 2 years in doing it myself. So it's fascinating, and there's so many examples we could give you. And I think the key is, I think when we have an issue in our life, whether, like I said, it's an issue facing business or parenting, you will go often and seek out a book or a podcast or a specific source, a YouTube video that's going to give you guidance on how to solve the fact that your child is hitting, or the fact that you keep losing staff, and you solve that problem. But what you forget to do is to maybe work on the presence of being, like who you are being in that situation to make the right decision. And so where do you start with that? And what Don's put together from all his years of experience, from his professional career, from going in and helping leaders in business, which he's done with Samson Almond, he's got some really powerful and amazing tools that can help you to shortcut that journey. So yes, you could go and read the 50 books that he's read on self-help and go and do experiences.
Probably more.
And go and try it out. But what he's trying to do with Unshakable, this course, is to bring you those very best models that are going to help you. And it can help in situations where you're not a parent and you're just in business. I can tell you why. Hey, but it will, because that's he works with executives on it. But the angle of the course will be like to look in those situations where you have a busy day at work and you're also going home to your family. How do you bring your best across that spectrum?
So here's the thing about niching, right? When you niche, it doesn't mean that what you do doesn't help others. It means you just know who you're talking to. So when you're listening to this and you're like, oh, actually, I'm not a parent, or my kids are old and I'm grown up, but you're a leader and you've got a business. I want you to think about all of the stuff that we've just said, except the difference is your business is your kids.
Because it is
it's exactly the same. How you turn up for your business, especially as a leader, and I'm very passionate about like authenticity and vulnerability. Vulnerability isn't this, I'm really struggling. Vulnerability is, this is where I want to go. This is who I am. This is how I want to be. And you being vulnerable to your team and showing them, will you accept me? Because that's where I think people are coming short, is everyone is putting 2, 3, 4, 5 masks on top of who they are. And that's where we get incongruence, where we get teams out of a line. And I have a big viewpoint on, say, society and the world that my kids or our kids are going to grow up to. And I recognize that some people that have power over elements of community and society are the leaders, the people that are in charge. And so if you listen to this, they will ring true for you. But our wording in the course is going to be towards parents and with younger kids. But that doesn't mean if you listen to this, if you're intrigued, essentially what you get to do is you get to see the inside of those things.
And so what we then do with the 5-day challenge that we have coming up. So it was a 10-day challenge. You would have heard us talk about in previous episodes. We've now decided we're testing it out just in terms of keeping the energy up for us during the challenge, in terms of like the energy that Don could bring in the community, etc. And just kind of giving a taster without giving too much away. We thought we'd give it, bring it down to 5 days and kind of see the response that people have to that.
Yeah, well,
and the idea is to take one of the many models Don has and give you a little taster, a feel for how it can have an impact in your life. And it's a free challenge. The outcome of it is obviously Don then says, if you've enjoyed this and you want more of it, there's a course that I can take you on an even more kind of life-changing journey. But it's a little taster, and jump on board, invite your friends.
So what was some of the feedback we got on the 10-day and why we shortened it?
I don't think we shortened it because of any feedback.
No, so the way I'm going is like,
the one person.
Not the one person.
Oh, a couple of, yeah.
They were like, you gave us too much.
We feel like we've got enough
to
satiate our hunger for self-improvement for the next few months. We've got enough to work with here to keep us going. We don't feel like we need a course right now. So we were so keen on just like over-delivering with value, because even with the course, we want people who come on our course to feel like they're robbing us, like they are getting so much more value than they pay for. I want them to feel like it's a steal because we just want to deliver so much value. And so we did that with the challenge, and they were kind of like, well, we've got everything we need for the next few months. Like, maybe we'll come back in about 6 or 12 months when we feel like we need more like improvement in our life.
Yeah, which is great, isn't it? At the end of the day,
we want to
I was making videos today for it, and I had to redo one because I ended up selling more, like almost explaining why we're doing a course, because it's like, we're doing a free challenge, and why are you selling the course? Now, what I said in the narrative there was like, what we want to do is maximize the effect that we can have, that we know we have on people that need that. And the only way to maximize that is to be able to fully commit to doing this all day, every day. And that's what I want to do. I want us to be earning money so that I can bring the best value possible, so that anyone that touches base with Identity Human, like
podcast, Don loves the Alex Hormozi, is that how you say his name? Yeah. Model, where he just gives so much value for free, because he knows that if he likes working with business owners who are earning like $1 million plus, so he wants to help people get to that point so that he can then have a bigger pool of people to work with.
Yeah.
So he's just like, I'm just going to give so much value. I'm not afraid to give value. And there is definitely a movement of that, and we just love it. So that's where, if we want to inevitably give as much value as possible so that we can make a wider impact. But there comes a point where also people need to by putting a bit of investment in it, they're going to show proper commitment to making the change.
Yeah, of course. There's that. Like, if you do something for free, people aren't going to commit. There's a lot of psychological studies behind that too. So you've got to have some skin in the game. And realistically, you can't deny people have to make money first and foremost. In the world that we live in today, if you want to have a proper effect, you can't have a proper effect by earning a minimum salary, because you can have a deep effect on a few individuals. But I think especially from a leadership perspective, we need more people to be strong, courageous, and stand up for what they believe in.
Yeah, and because even of making the current state of affairs doesn't mean that all the money goes into personal lifestyle. You can hire a bigger team so that when you run courses stuff, you can have more coaches supporting people one-on-one. You can have more people interacting in the communities and answering questions who you've coached. It's like, the money gets fed back into the system too, to help more people. But yeah, so what I would say, like, if you're listening to this, and it's great hearing what Don and I are up to, what can you take away from today's episode? And maybe we can cover more, but one of the key takeaways I would say is this point, which I'm sure Don's touched on before, about how to truly fix problems or make changes in areas of your life, and is working on yourself. You've probably heard that before. And so if you are finding, like, you might find, like, I have this issue at work or in my business, and you keep trying to solve the issue. My question to you, and say you stuck, would be, so my question to you would be, are you bringing the right energy to that every day? Are you showing up as the CEO of your business, as the business owner, or are you stuck getting in the day-to-day work and not actually bringing the best version of yourself?
And I suppose if we want to bring it from the business senses, I'm a big, big, big believer in ultimate responsibility. And the only way you can truly learn to take ultimate responsibility is to know who you are, what you're about, and how you fix problems. Because if you're constantly focusing on other people, where do you think you're going to focus your problems on other people? And I think that's where there's a big gap where leaders and business owners will come in and not take responsibility, not be self-aware that their interactions either creating that psychological unsafety, which you can create with kids, by the way. That's why kids lie. Their interactions are not creating alignment, which you can create with kids. It's like the relationship between parent and child, and I know that this sounds condescending, is very similar to leader-employee. The difference is, as the leader, you can't see it as a hierarchical thing. You've got to be able to see people as equals and talk to them as if you truly want to develop them.
And by taking ultimate responsibility yourself, you teach others to take ultimate responsibility and pride. And the thing is, if you get stuck in the cycle of not taking ultimate responsibility and fixing, and feel like the problem is with other people and trying to fix them, the problem is with your kid and fixing them, the problem is with your team and trying to fix them, you get so busy And that leads to burnout and losing yourself. So it's almost like you end up in this vicious negative cycle. Whereas if you can come out of that, take ultimate responsibility for yourself, work on yourself, you show others that that's what they need to do.
So Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world.
We all sound so cliche. I feel like we're just a book of sayings this evening.
But so the point is, some of those sayings, they stick around for
a reason.
Mm-hmm. Like you've heard millions of people try and make their own sayings and they don't stick around. So it's almost like we have to learn from those that have come before us, because they've spent 50 years getting to that point where they realize something, but they've run out of time.
What's that book like, the 1920s? Is
Dale Carnegie's one.
Yes.
Yeah. There's tons. The point is, and like, there's a few coaches, or I don't want to call them influencers because they have a bad rep, right? There's a few people that have gone through stuff and they say, like Tony Robbins says, he says, you can either learn this stuff on your own, or you can learn from someone who's learned this stuff and then move forward quicker. And
which is the idea of any course.
That's the whole point of a course, is the whole point of sayings, is if you can actually listen to what Seneca says or Gandhi says or someone that's been around the block, and you really just think about that saying, you give yourself a different perspective. You learn, you be curious. And I think that's what's important, is often we will read it but not think, because we're just drifting. We're just cracking on. We're not thinking for ourselves. So we have to learn to think for ourselves. But when you start to think for yourself, we need to make sure we've got strong foundations. And that's kind of where we focus. So, yeah, I suppose 22 minutes in, and we've spoken in and around the course. Is there anything in the last, say, 4 minutes that you can say for this week that someone's now spent 22 minutes listening to our podcast?
What they can take away. That's what I said about 2 or 3 minutes ago. I said, I feel like the biggest takeaway that you can take, if you want something actionable to do in your life from this podcast, you're going to be like, right, that was really valuable. To me, the biggest thing would be what I said about 3 or 4 minutes ago, was around stop getting stuck on that hamster wheel of trying to fix specific problems or people, and actually realize that working on yourself is often going to fix the problem in itself. So if you take the example, and another example is like being a parent, and say you find yourself in this loop of shouting at your kids, snapping, losing control, and you say, well, they were not listening. They asked for food. I said it was bedtime and they did everything but go to bed. And this comes back to the ultimate responsibility. You could start to go and, right, I'm going to read 5 parents' help books. I'm going to find out how to have better bedtime routines. So I'm going to fix this. I'm going to get a bedtime routine in place. I'm going to do a punishment chart. I'm going to implement the naughty step. And this is fixing the problem. But actually, if you had entered that situation of your bedtime with your kids with the right kind of energy, you don't need to get too technical. You just need to know that kids need distraction and they feed off your energy. So if you bring the right energy to your parenting, the right energy to your business, you don't need too much of these fancy solutions to fix it. So I think the key takeaway for someone who's listening to this, if the course we're running is not what you're not interested, or it's not within your financial range, or it's just not something you want to do, I would say, and you're trying to fix a problem in your life, look inwards to yourself and do some work on yourself and your energy, and you may just find that fixes that external problem.
And my takeaway, just on top of Ray's one, is when you recognize something that you need to work on, don't force a change by resisting it. So let's say you eat crisps, you no longer eat crisps. Resisting crisps, resisting that urge is only going to do one thing. What you resist persists, okay? Mm-hmm. So it's not about going, oh, I'm going to resist eating. You actually just have to keep your heart open. And I know that's a metaphor, but like keep your doors open, keep your mind open by being more aware. So when you get that craving crisp, go, oh, there's that craving again. So you acknowledge it. And then if you need to eat crisps again, you just eat them. And what happens is you eventually start to figure out the cravings are there and you go, I don't actually want to eat them anymore. And then you stop choosing to do it. So that's the same pathway I've seen people, like I've gone on for, like not drinking and all those things, because they say if you become If you're strong enough to resist, to hold on to a change, so you're strong enough to keep this resistance, you become a nightmare to live with because you're so used to controlling something within you that you, as above, so below, you control that around you.
So someone who learns to control really bad habit, and that kind of like, I'm going to power over this with this resistance, tends to be someone who becomes really difficult to live with because they're so focused on that. And do you know what, when you were talking about that, what kind of I had like a little like revelation in my mind is, Don and I have 4 young kids. Our oldest is 9.5. So we've been, probably from when we were pregnant, trying to, listen to podcasts, read books, like educate ourselves on better ways to parent and things like that. And I think back to all the different techniques and stuff we try with parenting. And the same would apply to exercise and healthy eating. Same. Like, we've done banting over the years. We've tried, different things over the years to get on top of our health, and the same could apply to business. So we've tried all these techniques. And I would say we've probably been the most, like, we're in such a good place with parenting the kids. We're in such a good place, better than we've been ever in business. I know there's frustrations, but better than we've ever been in business, better than we've ever been in health, better than we've ever been with parenting. And none of that came from magic solutions that we found. All of it has come from us really working on ourselves for the past 2 years. And yes, we had that underlying understanding, but without our core, our nervous system being regulated, us being confident in who we are, us being in like top health, etc. None of that works without you bringing the right energy to everything you do. Like, and I'm not just talking theoretically. I can really feel it. Like, I am so much of a better mom, not because of techniques I've learned, but because I've worked on myself. And I am so much better at the way, I know I'm not definitely far from perfect, but the way I eat and the way I exercise, not because I've obsessed over a specific way of eating or a specific way of exercising, because I've worked on conquering my chimp, on mindset stuff, I've worked on myself, and that has naturally sort of fanned out into my ability to know myself in a situation.
And I suppose how you'd link those is all of those techniques and tools and things that you learned in the podcasts were pointless until you learned which ones meant something to you and how you'd implement them by being the right version of yourself to do that.
So you're not always trying to do what someone else is doing, but you take and create your own version.
Yeah, so think for yourself and commit, and I think that you slowly start to understand it better. So I think that's been a great episode for today. I'm gonna bop it on the head before we get to the 30 minutes. Thank you very much, Ray, for your insight and for fixing the 2 microphone issues.
Yeah, I've managed to sort these 2 microphones out, but you've done a lot of the back end work that allowed us to get to this point.
Nah, it's okay. I've just doesn't matter. Right, guys, thank you very much. Again, we'll sign off. I mean, we haven't got the sign in nailed, but we've got the sign off nailed. So remember, Ubuntu, we are who we are through others. So I'll work on...
Can I pause you there? 1 second.
Oh, that was the middle of the sign off.
I know, but I didn't want you to sign off and actually sign off. And then, okay, so can I...
Off.
Okay. Just before we end off, today is, we're going to release this on the 14th of August when this podcast is released, this episode. The next challenge begins on the
18th.
28th of August.
Got
okay.
You. Thank you.
You can sign up to the challenge 1 week before. So we open the challenge, sign up on the 21st of August. The challenge begins on the 28th of August. It runs for 5 days. The sign up page is the usual one. We always just switch out the relevant page that you see. So if you're ever in doubt, it's always identityhuman.com. So www.identityhuman.com. Go there. You can go on the wait list until the sign up opens, and we would love to see you there. Please invite friends. It's a free challenge. There's absolutely no obligation to sign up to the course afterwards. We have people who've done it on repeat. They've done it other previous challenges and they want to do the next one. So just come along and have fun.
Yeah, and don't feel bad. We've done webinars where I've had 1 or no people pitch up. So I'm used to it. So don't feel like that there's any commitments to any time around what you've got going on. You're very busy. You're prioritizing the right things. But just if you're listening to this and you're going, there's something in me going, maybe I should try that out. Follow that.
And
the universe throws you pebbles, then stones, then boulders, then planets. So don't wait till the planet gets thrown at you to listen.
And the time commitment is a maximum of a 5-minute video each of the 5 days and a 2-minute exercise. So we're talking a less than 10-minute commitment for 5 days. And it'll give you some amazing food for thought and some amazing sort of tangible practices to take forward with you.
Right. I'll work on me for you.
Time to
and
sign
you
off.
work on you for me. Now it's time to sign up. Thanks very much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Cheers.